So my first speaker for the post-lunch session is Mr. Sanjay Singh for the topic, Optimize the Usage Pattern. Mr. Singh has been the head DevSecOps for Games 24/7. A little brief introduction about himself. He's a seasoned tech leader and has more than 2 decades of industry experience. Mr. Sanjay Singh has been driving cloud optimization, DevOps practices. He thrives for automation, improving customers' experiences, and focuses mostly on the digital transformation. Mr. Singh is heading the DevSecOps function for a gaming company called Games 24/7, which is popularly known for their flagship games like Rummy Circle and My 11 Circle. He has worked with Angle One, he has worked with Intuit, he has worked with Cisco, and few other companies prior to joining Games 24/7. Let's give a huge round of applause and welcome Mr. Singh on the stage. Over to you, Mr. Singh.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I know after lunch session is okay. I know the after lunch session is always difficult. Very difficult to keep the audience engaged, right? And I hope all of you had really good, nice lunch. I have a topic which is, I know the theme of today's discussion is about sustainability and whatnot, right? And so when I was thinking about what topic should I be presenting, optimization of the cloud usage, of course the cost, which results into optimizing the cost, came into my mind, and then I came up with the presentation. All right, so a little bit background about me, not in details, but how I started on this, on the optimization side. So this was back in 2012, when I felt that, hey, how do I make use of the solar energy in more sustainable, or energy in more sustainable way. So I started reading a lot about how do I use the solar energy, for my household. Learned a lot of, things about, the solar energy usage, how I can use it, what kind of equipments I need at home. And again, in different city, you have different solar indexes and things like that. And based on that, I decided to, build on my own solar system. Of course, I purchased the panels, what you see in the picture here. And back then, I was working for Intuit. Intuit, in fact, covered it on their Facebook handles and several places. So I ended up installing a solar panel. And the story is, when I went to a company called Tata Solar to buy those panels, based on whatever information that I had collected, they said, hey, by the way, we do not support these kind of installations. So since you now told me about your story that you are going to experiment, we are not giving you any warranty on these, the panels. And I said that's perfectly fine. I'm just going to experiment. If it works, it works. Otherwise, I'm just going to discard it. So I'm not going to come back to you that, hey, your panel has some issue or whatever, right? And with that in mind, I started installing. And again, the idea was, and applied the software techniques or the infrastructure techniques that I'll start with maybe very small, and based on the success or failure, I'll decide whether to go to the next level or not, right? I mean, how many of you are from DevOps background? Well, almost everyone, right? So there is a canary deployment approach, right, that I think we all follow in the CI/CD pipeline, that you start with very small deployment. Based on the success or failure, then you decide whether you want to move ahead or you want to just roll back or maybe discard it and try something else. So with that approach, I started. And as I said, it was a very small device, very small panel that I installed. Based on that, again, since it started working, then I started adding capacity, right? Again, the idea was if I can minimize the dependency on the grid supply, right? And that way I can, in whatever way I can contribute to the environment. And as I said, this was back in 2012 days. Fast forward around 2019 when I joined, 2021, sorry. When I joined this gaming company, we were spending a lot of amount on the cloud costs. And AWS is our cloud service provider. Now I have put some numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Any guesses what those numbers are? Of course, I'll talk about it, but any guesses? Okay, so that's on the number, but what those numbers are? There are different bars. These are all monthly usage. Just to explain, the blue color is the overall cost. For the cloud, for that particular month, the orange is just for the non-production cost, right? Out of that blue, the bar that you see. Now, there are different months as you see, right? And I have given some numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you see, there is some pattern for sure, right? Okay, okay. So 1 is, if you see, that's the highest, right? Isn't that highest? Okay. 2 is, again, maybe the second highest. 3 is third highest. 4th is not the 4th highest, right? Okay, budget versus what we spent. Okay. Anything else that comes to your mind? Okay. Yes. I mean, so every business, I think that is what you are trying to indicate. Every business has some usage pattern, right? Every month is not same. Every day is not same, right? Similarly, we are in gaming industry, so we also have the peak season, peak business hours, peak business months. And based on that, your cloud usage go up, right? For example, if you take Amazon or Flipkart as an example, they run big billion days and things like that. During those times, of course, their infrastructure cost is very high. And since we are living in cloud era where you can optimize the cost, right? Based on the usage, you can actually optimize in such a way where you're not paying heavy amount throughout the year, but rather whenever you have any events like big billion days and things like that, you pay higher only during that period. So similarly, we also have some pattern. If you see the graph, I'll take you to the next slide. So number 1, 3, and 4, these are our peak months. Peak in the sense we had some major events. And for us, the major events are the IPL and the World Cup. So the one that you see, number 1 here, that was again the peak month, but that was the World Cup 2021. And then we had non-peak, and even if you see the number 2, that's a non-peak month. But the usage was very, very high, right? If you compare with number 1, which was the peak season for us, and 2, which is not the peak season, right? We were getting ready for the peak season, which is number 3, but 2 was not the peak season, and that's when we felt that, hey, there is something that we should definitely pay attention to and see where the cost is going. Until then, we didn't have a lot of visibility, by the way. So that's when we started tracking at every level and see, let's first figure out the topmost, maybe top 5 spends, right? And then we figure out how we can optimize that. While I was doing all of this, right, of course, the cost was the driving factor, but one thing that was running in my mind that if I reduce the overall footprint, I'm actually contributing to the environment, isn't it? Right? Because with the reduced infrastructure, you run the reduced capacity, right, for your workloads without compromising on any of the user experience. Because if you say that, hey, I'm going to reduce the infrastructure and that will have a negative impact to your users, that's definitely, no one is going to accept that in the business, right? So idea was, let's optimize it in such a way where there is absolutely no impact to the business, but at the same time, can we define the accountability? So the 2 bar that you see, right, the number 2, there I started investigating along with my team, realized that the accountability was missing. Now, if you are in the cloud, and especially if you have done a lift and shift, right? How many of you are aware of lift and shift? Right, it's a good number of people. Lift and shift is nothing but you move as it is to your cloud, right? A lot of people, a lot of companies, they first get ready to go to the cloud because, again, the cloud is, as you know, right? I mean, it is not the same cost as the data center, right? The cost goes high exponentially. So if you do not prepare yourself and move everything as it is, then the cost may go exponentially high. And we had that situation where we noticed we moved. Of course, the experience and all of that was great because after moving to cloud, we minimized the number of issues, outages, because we had that flexibility or elasticity moving to the cloud. But again, the cost was becoming a problem. So when we started investigating for this number 2, we realized that there are a lot of things that need to be done, and which is what I have depicted on this slide. So we identified a lot of wastages which came in as part of the lift and shift, right? Second thing that we did was defining the accountability. Because I don't know how many of you have had a situation where you interacted with dev and the dev said that, hey, I don't care what is running in production or in non-production. I just need this infrastructure, it is running, right? But if you tell them that, hey, whatever you are running in production, this is how much it is costing to the company, right? If you define that accountability part, you'll be able to optimize that a lot, and I'll take you to that graph again. We defined that. What we did was that first, if I can take you to the back screen. Do you see something on number 2, the non-production cost? Extremely high, right? Compared to maybe number 4 or maybe further, right? So non-production costs started going high very, very high, month over month. And that's when we felt that what if we define the accountability where we tell people that anything that you provision in the production, we will tag that against your name or against your application. And we will also give you a way where you can manage the life cycle of the infrastructure, right? If you do not need it, for example, non-production after 7 or after 8, I don't know, again, based on the working hours, why do you need that infrastructure? Can you not shut it down once you're done, with the day? So first we said that, okay, anything and everything that you provision now going forward in non-production, it is going to be tagged against you. Second principle, that once you're done with your development work or performance testing or whatever work that you're doing, go ahead and shut it down. Third, we said that if you do not do it, we will shut it down at 10 p.m. no matter what, right? Of course, we'll give you an option to submit any exception that you are looking for, but we will do that. Now, just by doing that, as I said, if you remember the previous slide, we were able to cut down the non-production cost by around 70%. That was huge, without any noise in the system. No one complained that, hey, with your system now, I do not have ability to do this testing or this development. But rather we said that, hey, now we have defined the accountability. First, whenever you are submitting a request to provision the infrastructure, and it is in self-serve way, the system is going to calculate and tell you that this is the per day cost. If it is beyond, say, $100 a day, it goes to your manager. If it is beyond, say, $120 a day, it goes to higher ups, right? Just by giving that level of visibility, they said that, okay, let me optimize it, right? And then again, something which was running in my mind that, when we buy any electronic appliances, right, we see the star rating. A lot of times we decide whether I should go for this. I have 3-star rating, or maybe the similar cost, the other brand is 4-star rating. Maybe I should go for 4-star rating because there I'm going to save cost on, the power usage. Similarly, we felt that, hey, what if we give that the requester that level of visibility where they can see that the cost is going high, right? With this, whatever configuration that I have selected. The next level, what we have started thinking about is, and I don't know how much cloud can support yet, but what if we give that, what is the carbon footprint that this particular infrastructure that your provisioning is going to leave, right? And what if there is a way where they can adjust and then provision the infrastructure, right? So define the accountability where we build the self-serve infrastructure tool, where as a developer you can go and submit, and then it happens in an automated way based on, again, what is the per day cost after all the approval process and things like that. We also started politely shaming people in the sense, if they have not stopped the instances, at 10 p.m. before we shut it down, we send an email to that individual that, hey, you have not stopped your instances today, you have not asked for exception, we are going to shut it down, and if you do not shut down, this is the one-day cost or overnight cost. And that mail used to go to that individual, their next level manager, and all the way up to CTO level, right? So that way we'll politely shaming, that particular activity we also started. Third, we developed something, and this is not done fully yet, but we started developing something called unit economics dashboard. Now, for every business, you have some pattern, right? Imagine, or some unit cost. Imagine if it is, say, Paytm, right? As a Paytm, say, the business owner, you may want to know what is my per transaction cost, right? For Paytm, if you transfer 5 rupees or 5,000 rupees, for a tech people, it doesn't matter. It is one transaction. But what is the per transaction cost? Can you calculate that? And with the growth in business, can you find out whether the per transaction cost is going down or going up, right? For example, if for Paytm, if it costs, say, 1 rupee per transaction, And imagine 5 years ago, it was say 1,000 transactions a second, and now 1,000 has become say maybe 5,000. Now, if the cost is still at the same 1 rupee per transaction, then definitely there is a lot of room for optimization, right? And something needs to be looked at very seriously. Or if it has gone up from 1 rupee, it has become 1 rupee 20 paisa, then that becomes even more problematic. So we started giving that level of visibility that what is the per unit cost for transaction. And as I said, every business has their own unit cost. Not everyone is Paytm, where it is maybe easy to calculate. But again, if you can get into the level of what is your per unit, what is the unit that you want to measure, and what is your per unit cost that is today, and if you can plot the graph that per unit cost a month ago, for example, was this, and now it is this, and give them ability to answer that why the cost has gone up. Maybe the development cost has gone up significantly. I mean, they may be curious to know what is my development cost now, right? Now, what if you give them option where they can even filter out? The development cost was a month ago was, say, X per transaction, and now it is Y, right? And that way they can optimize it even further, right? So again, a lot of focus on how do we define the accountability. Now, I put a lot of focus on being a DevOps, right? A lot of places where I think even today we are struggling. We are still very, very ops heavy, not a lot DevOps heavy. In my opinion, I think what we need to focus on is decentralizing that responsibility. How do you decentralize? Can you just, from tomorrow, can you say, hey, I don't care about any production outage or the cost or other things, you take care of it? Will not happen, right? But if you give them enough ability, one is visibility, second, the tooling, where as a service owner, they can take action. That way you are decentralizing the responsibility. Again, a lot of companies today have NOC, right? Network Operations Center, where the issue happens, someone sees at the dashboard, and then they understand, then they go run behind the service owner, and they're like, get lost, I'm busy with something else, right? How many of you have seen this situation, right? Now, what if, again, there you define the accountability that system will figure out where the problem is, and system will automatically call you, for example, right? The moment there is an issue, you troubleshoot and figure out if it is an infrastructure issue or service issue or database issue, and then you talk to the right people. But actually, it starts from the ownership, right? Whoever is owning the service, right? So, a lot of focus on that where we can, one, define the accountability. Second, that will help you actually decentralize these activities. And that way, actually, DevOps team can focus on building these capabilities. Not like my role is to restart or chase people to fix a problem, right? This is just an illustration from the AWS cost page. Now, if you see the 1 TB cost for GP3, and if you see two different units, right? The storage is same, 1 TB, 3,000 IOPS, 150 Mbps, and 100 Mbps throughput. The cost is $150 a month. Same storage, 1 TB, 16,000 IOPS, 1,000 Mbps throughput. The cost is $263 a month, which is 70% higher. Again, as I said, it is nothing but having the visibility. You go and ask developers, they may not even know why they have selected 16,000 IOPS versus maybe 3,000 IOPS is sufficient for them, right? So if there is a way where, one, we can measure and tell them that, hey, although you have provisioned 16,000, but your usage is not even 1,000, can you optimize it there? Again, if you see, indirectly, we are contributing to the environment, right? That's all I had. Any questions that I can answer for you guys? That's my, by the way, coordinates in case any of you want to connect with me over LinkedIn. Yeah. Very good suggestion. I think we should. Yeah, we have not done that, but yeah, really good suggestion. Right. Yeah. By the way, we are using Cast.ai. We are, I think, one of the top 5 companies in India who's adopted Cast.ai. So Cast.ai, their model is a little different. It actually, they monitor your Kubernetes workloads, and then they find the cheaper hardware for you, right? And that way the costs, they are able to optimize the cost. But yes, one is on that, we're adopting the cost-effective tooling. Second is, I think, as I said, the number one thing that we did, right? And if I can take you back to this picture, right? The one thing which helped us was to first detect what is your top contributors, top 3 contributors. EBS volume was one of the top one, for example. We noticed that as part of left-hand shift, we moved a lot of garbages, right? I mean, typically what you think when you do just the move, right? You may think that, okay, let me first move, and then I'll decide whether I need it or not, do not need it. And that never happens, right? So again, we did the first, I think we figured out top 5 contributors to the cost. And then we went behind that, okay, how do I optimize this? Second is, as I said, a lot of focus on defining the accountability part. And of course, exploring other opportunities, like for example, Kubernetes, you have option where tools like Cast, and there are multiple other tools which can help you optimize that. I think someone was talking about from AWS that if you, for example, move to Graviton, which we also have started doing that aggressively, Graviton is, they claim 50% cheaper than rest of the processors. There are different ways to optimize, and you can maybe try parallel different things to optimize the cost. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. So FinOps is nothing but the habit, in my opinion, right? And that is what I meant to say. Although I didn't use the term. Right. 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 Okay. Correct. No, so FinOps, as I said, one was the practice and more of a defining the accountability, that we have done it now. And we are definitely focusing a lot on now, how do I even track the carbon footprint? While provisioning, can we give the visibility that, hey, this particular infrastructure cost is this, and the carbon footprint or maybe the rating is, say, for example, 2 or 3 stars or whatever, right? I mean, for example, when we order something from even Amazon, we look at the stars. What if we give similar visibility to the end user that, hey, this is the star rating from the energy or green computing perspective? So definitely exploring that. I know the cloud providers are also getting ready with that, and we definitely plan to include that as well. Anything else? Any other questions? Thank you, everyone.